While it's not coming out in English until November 5th, our next set, Delta Rain, has already had its first cards revealed. This is due to the fact that Japan is getting those Delta Rain cards on July 31st as part of their Storm Emeralda set, meaning we have to wait more than 3 months to get them. It also creates a weird situation where Japan will get Storm Emeralda on July 31st, then have to revert back to the Pitch Black format for Worlds on August 28th, then enter the 30th Celebration format on September 16th, which is also the date we get 30th Celebration, except while they'll have Delta Rain cards at that point, we won't. Yes, it's very confusing. Essentially though, when Storm Emeralda comes out in Japan, tournament results can be largely ignored. But enough making your head hurt more than when I'm trying to do simple math. Let's look at those brand new cards arriving in November. There's no easy way to say this. Throw is better than Sock because Socks are the devil. Also, Mega Rayquaza EX is just the worst Raging Bolt EX. Where the Giraffe deals 70 damage for each energy discarded and works perfectly with Crispin and Teal Masked Ogerpon while also having no weakness, Mega Ray does 50 damage for each fire and lightning energy attached to all your Pokemon carrying a lightning weakness. Yes, they chickened out and didn't make Mega Rayquaza a dragon type, instead going for flying, which equals colorless in the TCG. And I know it seems weird to use the word only, but when Kangaskhan has 300 and Zygarde has 310, Mega Ray only having 280 hit points is concerning. But enough complaining. Well, enough complaining for now. Instead, let me point out the potential goodness. First off, the ability. When you plop down Mega Ray from hand, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and can attach a single basic energy you find there to it. Between Academy at Night and Nymphomaniac, you can guarantee it. This also means you probably want 4 copies of Ray in your deck alongside Ultra Ball and probably Mega Signal. As for the attack, Storm Emeralda dealing 50 damage times the number of fire and lightning energy on your side of the field means you need 7 to one-shot a Dragapult. That might seem like a lot, probably because it is. But thanks to Glass Trumpet, flooding the field with energy is possible. Until PTCGL decides it hates tooting and hides them in the bottom of your deck. And while the 3 energy attack cost seems rough, Counter Gain can bring it down to 2. Plus, the advantage of Mega Ray being colorless means that you can pair it with Bouffalant to reduce incoming damage by 60. Though at that point you'll need Area 0 to fit all these basics. And I'm not even sure Mega Ray is that much better than Kangaskhan with Backtrack Badge. Still, with no damage cap, why exactly am I so down on Mega Rayquaza EX, the mascot of our November set? For starters, Brout is the worst Grass Owl. On top of that, pretty much every card I mentioned that makes Rayquaza better is from the H block, meaning they rotate out of standard in March. With Delta Rain in November, that means you only get about 4 months of use from Glass Trumpet and Bouffalant before they're gone. To be fair, Raging Bolt is also gone, but rotation is far from Ray's only problem. Team Rocket's Watchtower is a stadium that shuts off colorless Pokemon abilities and will remain in standard for another 20 months. Even if it didn't, it's not like Champions Road is that great. You only search the top 4 cards of your deck, and in the unlikely event an energy's in there, only one's accelerated. I think it would have been better if they made it search the top 3 and accelerate all energy, considering Mega Ray gives up 3 prizes. Then there's the attack cost for Storm Emeralda. Because of that colorless requirement, not only do you have to hit on Champions Road, you also need Crispin to be your turn 1 supporter. And even then, you're only dealing 150 damage. So you probably can't run a Mega Ray focused deck as it's too weak initially. I guess you could pair it with somebody like Electric, except if that strategy was so strong, Raging Bolt would be using it. Emboar could be fun, except if you start Mega Ray, it's liable to get knocked out before your bacon's sizzling. And if Belly Bolt Raging Bolt hasn't been a thing despite my best efforts, Mega Ray won't work either. It's not just Raging Bolt that Mega Ray seems to be a worse version of. When 30th Celebration comes out in September, which predates us getting Delta Rain by like 50 days, Sylveon EX isn't too dissimilar. Sure, it requires 8 different types of energy to deal 400 damage. But access to EVEX, who itself activates Glass Trumpet, and Energy Search Pro means it's roughly on the same difficulty scale as Mega Ray. Comparing it to other Pokemon who deal damage based on the amount of energy in play, Mega Gardevoir only needs 6 to one-shot Mega Ray, which can be done with Smoochum and Wonderspatch. The whole reason Raging Bolt is so strong is because it can easily deal 210 or more damage turn 1. For Mega Ray, you have to play Crispin and hit 2 Champions Road to still only deal 200 damage, which is coming up short on a Teal Masked Ogerpon. Speaking of, Ogerpon in a Meganium deck will feast on Mega Ray. Mega Meganium, meanwhile, only needs 3 physical grass energy on itself with Baby Meganium in play to deal 370 damage, whereas Rayquaza needs 8 total fire and lightning to return the favor. I could go on and on about how Hydrapple EX seems better than Mega Ray, or how Leafeon EX will absolutely obliterate the Sky Dragon, so I will. Probably the most damning reason why I can only give Mega Ray 2.5 of my Luscious Toes are a couple of other box legendaries. If your opponent takes a single prize card, Zekrom EX from Black Bolt one-shots Mega Ray through weakness. And if they take 3 prizes, Reshiram can do it through damage, all for the same 3 energy attack cost as Mega Ray, except there's no lightning requirement. And no, I don't think Mega Audino with Backtrack Badge is going to fix Rayquaza, because Audino also gives up 3 prizes. What I will say is that the Pokemon Company tried to make Mega Ray playable. While it might look like a parasite designed to suck off your brain, Mega Rayquaza Cap is a tool card that accelerates energy. Unfortunately, it only accelerates energy to Pokemon with the cap attached. So apparently you have to play Treasure Tracker as your ace spec to find all of them while also filling up your bench. Then you can use Delta Gift to put up to 4 energy into play. While there's a lot of badness with this strategy, at least the cap can be given to anybody, not just Rayquaza. So ironically, it might be more useful in other decks. Additionally, Adventuring Lantern grabs both a basic fire and lightning energy from your deck and puts them into your hand. We only know the first 10 of 76 cards coming in Japan Storm Emeralda, so it's possible we get somebody similar to Infernape who accelerates those 2 types of energy from hand. Because as it stands currently, you're looking to rely on Delibird or 30th Celebration Pikachu EX to take advantage of the fact that you have all this energy in hand. I guess I should also mention Zinnia's Trust Your Pilot. It's supporter-based switch, except you can move an energy to the new active. That seems not great. Honestly, the best use case I saw for it is switching out a Dragapult EX with Neo Upper Energy attached into another one, since Zinnia doesn't specify basic energy. Also, MC's Hype is getting a reprint for some reason. Clearly, the Pokemon Company didn't watch my 10 cards we need reprinted video. Okay, before I show you the next 2 new cards coming in Delta Rain, think about how often you've seen Mega Floette with Angie Floette outside of the 1300s on TCG Live or outside of a handsome YouTuber's video. Yeah, the reason no one has succeeded with this strategy is that the stadiums take far too much work and can be easily bumped during your opponent's turn, gaining you nothing. Naturally, they saw how poorly this last double stadium was received and decided to double down while making it even tougher to get the combo. Both carrying the Legendary Summit name, which means you can't have more than 4 total despite it being split into 2 pieces. You can only play this new stadium if you have both the left and right side in your hand at the same time. And like Angie Floette, its effect really only works on your opponent's turn when they have a chance to bump it. Actually, scratch that. The effect could actively work against you since it reduces the amount of prize cards a colorless Pokemon gives up when KO'd by damage by 1. So if they have a Meowth or Kangaskhan or Terrapodos or Fanrotom or Dunsparce or Bloodmoon or Ursaluna in the active, you're punished for playing the stadium. And if you're cooking up ideas for other colorless Pokemon using Legendary Summit, look at Neutralization Zone. That card is much better, yet no one really uses it because 1 counter stadium and all your work is wasted. Basically, while I appreciate the effort of coming up with a new, old type of card, are you really going to commit 4 deck slots to something that potentially helps your opponent more than you? I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh on Mega Rayquaza EX. After all, unlike Raging Bolt, it doesn't need to discard the energy. So you can play a typical Belly Bolt or Electric or Ho-Oh or Cinderace deck and just sort of shoehorn Mega Ray into it. But in my experience, Raging Bolt doesn't struggle to find energy like my ex-wife trying to fit into an old pair of jeans. Simply because I think there's a footful of better cards in Standard that do almost the same thing, I'm sticking with my original assessment and giving Mega Ray 2.5 toes out of 5. And this was all without me pointing out how Slowking is a nightmare matchup for you. Dipplin can easily 2-shot it with Gladion or Maximum Belt, and 1 Stunfisk can trap it with another cleaning up the KO next turn. That being said, we still have 66 cards to go in Storm Emeralda, and I'm willing to have my mind changed. Moving to the other Storm Emeralda EX shown off today, at this point it's clear the Pokemon Company is actively trolling us. If I was to ask any sane person to give a colorless flying-type Pokemon a regular EX in 2026, they would reply with Unpheasant. Because they know we have a Pidove that can evolve directly into an Unpheasant EX, finally fulfilling a promise they made back in 2024. So naturally, it's Talonflame getting an EX in Delta Rain. Because as we all know, Talonflame is a flying type only in the games and doesn't have any other typing that would make sense on a Pokemon card. Agatha harkening back to the Talonflame from Steam Siege, this stage 2 can put itself directly onto the bench if you have any colorless Mega in play. Then for 2 colorless, Claw Hunt deals 150 damage and grabs any 2 cards from deck. So if you KO a Badoo against Dragapult with Claw Hunt, those 2 cards you just got will be stamped away immediately. Still, you can put Talonflame into any deck running Mega Rayquaza, add in some Hilda for the bird plus an Ignition energy, and realize you just spent a lot of time doing nothing because you don't have Latiasi X in play to retreat the Kangaroo. Unlike my feet in someone else's mouth, I'm not really sure where Talonflame EX fits. You're not putting it in a basic heavy deck to deal with Mega Magnetric since the damn thing's weak to lightning. And jumping through all these hoopas just to find 2 Mega Rayquaza cap that you have to wait a turn to use seems not fun. I also don't see a world where it improves Mamoswine EX or Reuniqueless, no matter how much you think Transformation Tome would allow you to swap out a Mega Kangaskhan. Oh, and for those wondering, Talonflame is unaffected by Team Rocket's Watchtower. The tower only stops abilities from Pokemon in play. Talonflame's ability activates when it's in your hand. Before you get mad that I'm not overhyping these new cards like a good YouTuber should, remember that Delta Rain is 132 days away. We still have Pitch Black on July 16th, followed by 30th Celebration on September 16th. There's roughly 60-ish potentially playable cards from 30th Celebration we don't know about yet, just like Japan Storm Emeralda. So even though I'm underwhelmed now, I'm willing to let them cook. So why isn't this video over yet? Well, the longer the video, the more ads I can run. Also, while Japan Storm Emeralda has just 76 cards, odds are our Delta Rain set will have 100 or more. You see, on the same day as Storm Emeralda, Japan is also getting some new Mega Starter decks. If you've ever heard me talk about starter decks before, though, you know these aren't anything to get excited about, as they're merely meant to introduce new players to the game featuring easy-to-understand attacks and abilities. I mean, do you remember Ascended Heroes? It's where we were introduced to meta-defining EXs like Stunfisk, Mandibuzz, Togedemaru, and the best of the bunch, Zangoose. And where did all these come from? Yep, starter decks in Japan. We'll have to wait for the Pokemon Company International to officially announce Delta Rain, letting us know how many cards will be included. But there's a good chance these arrive as filler in our next set. First up is Zoroark EX. Essentially a worse version of the Zoroark we have in Standard that jacks off your mind, the EX does 20 damage times the number of Pokemon you have in play for a single darkness. So it basically copies the old Zoroark GX's attack. And the new Zorua isn't anything special since we already have one in Standard that does 30 damage for 1 darkness at the cost of hurting itself for 10. Because there apparently aren't enough EV cards, we're getting another new EX. Except unlike the Terra, this one can't evolve, so it stands alone like Godsmack. Yeah, no one's going to use this when the behemoth known as Zangoose EX already exists. For an EX with surprising potential that actually won't be a thing, we have a new Meowstarada. I don't completely hate this card. 120 to their active and 120 to someone on the bench has proven useful on somebody like Baby Blaziken. The only caveat is that the bench sitter has to be damaged. Whether that's Risty Ruins or Baby Frostless or Arboliva EX, you can kinda make this work. But Arboliva typically needs to be paired with a heavy hitter, not a cheek spreader. So while I might be able to squeeze a video out of this card if I'm out of ideas, the chances it penetrates the meta are low. The new Arboliva's ability is just a repel, meaning they choose their new active. There's almost no synergy with the EX, and worst of all, we don't even get a 70 hit point Smoliv out of the deal. Pawmot's ability is almost the exact same as Electric's. The only difference is that it can accelerate the lightning to anybody, not just those on your bench. But it's a stage 2, making the stage 1 electric better. Then there's Liepard. If you run the 60 hit point Purloin in your dark deck to find Pokemon, this guy's not unusable. For a single darkness, it does 20 damage to their active times the number of damage counters on it. Use the Toxtricity Monkey-Dory combo and you can set up some KOs on a few things. And finally, Delibird. Pokebeach didn't translate the ability, but according to someone in the comments, it simply reuses the ability of Celebi from a few years ago. When Delibird's in the active, you can search the top 6 cards of your deck and grab any basic energy you find there. Basically, even if Delta Rain does have over 100 cards, making it the biggest main set of 2026, yet still smaller than both special sets this year, that's not necessarily a good thing.